Welcome to Unshakeable with Human Design, the show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs use human design to shift from hustle to flow without sacrificing results. Come here to become an unshakable human and build an unshakable business according to your human design. I'm your host, Nicole. Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design, everybody. I'm your host, Nicole, and we are here today with the final episode in our Center series. I can't believe it's over. I'm so sad. I really enjoyed this. I love these series that we do. We did the Profiles series back a couple of months ago, which got a really great response. And now here we are ending our little series for the 9 Human Design Centers. I can't believe we're done. And today we are going to talk about the Throat Center. And the reason I left it for last is because all roads lead to the throat. All of the energy in the human design body graph is all pushing, trying to make its way to the throat center. So it's so crucial, and there's no other center like it. There are groups of centers. There's motor centers, there are awareness centers. The magnetic monopole and the G center and the throat center are in a category of their own, separately from each other. They have this singular focus that is different than all the other centers. There's nobody that goes into a category with them. So the throat center is an essential part of understanding what your strength is and what you're here to do. In the episodes about the other centers, we've talked about understanding undefined versus defined. Defined is going to mean that things are fixed, that they are consistent for you. That's who you're here to be. It's energy you're here to transmit. It's energy that you're here to put out into the world. And the white stuff, the undefined stuff, the open stuff is more what you are meant to receive, what you are meant to feel, what you perceive, where you're meant to be a little bit more leaned back. And the center is no different. Defined throat, you're going to be a little bit more forceful with your communication. Forceful maybe is not the best word, but you're going to be more outward with your communication. You're probably going to feel like you have confidence in the way that you speak, or at least you have the potential to feel that. Because the throat center is the center of manifestation, but as we talk about it in human design, the way we mean manifestation, it's not necessarily drawing things to you like we hear manifestation talked about on Instagram and manifestation programs where we're teaching you how to get into the energy of things. That's a different manifestation. But what we're talking about in human design is manifestation as action, as expression. It is the center of communication, but it's the center of outward action, which is why all the energy in the rest of the chart is trying to make its way to the throat in order to be expressed. So if we have an undefined throat, it might feel like our energy wants to be expressed, but doesn't always feel like there's a consistent path to that expression. About 70% of the world has the throat center defined. It's the most defined of all the centers. Most people in the world have a defined throat, but there is a minority that has an undefined throat. And they're going to be the ones who experience this feeling of like, maybe I can or cannot express myself. I can never count on it. And I think it's in some ways one of the easiest to understand that concept because we can understand feeling like you've got the words and you have confidence that the words will be there. And then we understand not having that confidence. Now, there's other nuances in here as well. Do you have a clear path from your other energy in your chart to your defined throat if you have a defined throat? Do you have an undefined throat where that energy of the throat center is turning on and off? You have it, then you don't. You feel confident in it because maybe a transit is activating it, or someone walked into the room, or you're around somebody who has their throat center defined or connects to one of your hanging gates in the throat. There are so many ways that you're going to get to feel it. That's why it's inconsistent. That's why it's variable. When we have something undefined, it doesn't mean that you never have it defined. Of course you do. You're guaranteed to at some point. There's going to be channels that get activated in the transits. The sun and the other planets are going to move into different gates, and those gates are going to connect to different gates that you have that connect to your throat. That will give you definition for a certain period of time. all openness can be defined at different times. So you have it, and then you have it when people are around you. And chances are that if you have an undefined throat, you're going to be around people who have a defined throat at some point. The vast majority of the world has a defined throat. So if you live in a house with 3 people, chances are at least one of them has a defined throat. Doesn't mean all of them. I have 2 people in my program. They work together, and they both have undefined throats. But they make 3 throat center connections when they're together, or I think they might even have 4 connections, where 4 connections are made when they come together. So they have this defined throat when they come together. And that's what's so incredible about human design. It tells us why we feel a certain way around certain people. Oh, I feel like I have more access to this. I feel like I can count on this more. That's what definition does, or it's supposed to do. That's what the potential is. That when we're defined somewhere, it gives us the potential to have consistency where we can feel like we can rely on that energy. That's why we are here to be it all the time when we have something defined. But when we have it undefined, it's going to turn on and off so we can feel like we have less confidence there. But that's what this game is about. Because the question always comes up, is it better to have something defined or undefined? And most people think it's better to have it defined. Am I at a disadvantage or at an advantage to have a defined throat? People typically assume that having an undefined throat means that they are at a disadvantage. And the response I have to that is always, it depends on how you look at it and how you're operating. If you're operating in lack, where you're thinking about how you don't have access to your words or you don't feel confident, what am I going to say? Then you are in the not self of the throat center. I want to get attention. I don't know if I'm going to get attention. Am I going to be able to say it? Are they going to listen to me? Am I going to feel invisible here? Because the open throat can often feel invisible, can often feel unheard. Even generators and projectors, where you don't have the motor to the throat, can feel this way at times. I have a lot of people that come into my world and they have defined throats, but they don't feel like they have access to it all the time. Well, what are you putting your focus on? This is what integration is about. This is what it means to start to embody your design and not embody definitions. It's not about understanding. It starts with understanding. That's why I give this away here on my podcast. The understanding part is free. The embodiment part is what people pay me for. Because there's a big difference between those two things. And the big difference is the impact it has on your life. Human design is a fascinating thing to learn about. Trust me, I love learning about human design. But it's the living it that changes your life. And in particular, for the defined and the undefined throat, understanding what that means. If you have a defined throat, understanding how to work with your defined throat. Me understanding the connections that my throat has, of where my communication power comes from, what I had to surrender to, in actuality, not in my mind, not thoughts. What ways do I communicate? Not just so I know about them, but how can I let myself communicate that way? How can I open that channel? And that's the beauty of what human design shows you. When you start the embodiment process, when you go beyond learning and you step into living, that is where life changes. That's where you're driving the car without thinking about, do I have to turn the wheel here? Do I have to hit the gas? Should I shift gears? What do I do? When you first start driving a car, you're thinking about it. And that's why anyone who's taught a young driver how to drive is like holding on for dear life and worried because they're not one with the car yet, right? They are thinking about, how do I operate this big hunk of machinery? And that's how we are when we first start with human design. We're thinking about it and we're like, is that my open head? Is that my open throat? She said that my gate 62, that means I need this. That means that I should be focused on details. So what details do I need to focus on? And it's very rocky when you're driving like that. You really grind in the gears a little bit. It's better than being unaware of everything. But sometimes we get caught in our head. And when we get caught in our head, by definition, we are not in our body. And that is what human design teaches us, how to get into our body. When I was acting, one of the most common notes I used to get from my acting teachers, and they would give it to other people too, during a scene or something, someone would inevitably at some point be told, "You're not in your body there, you're thinking about it. You didn't throw away the script, you're thinking about your next line." And everybody can see that. And it's the ones that can throw the script away, the ones that say, "Screw it, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to let the moment carry me." That's embodiment. I know who the character is. I know pretty much where they're going. I get the intention of the scene. Now my job is to just be so present with what is that I can let go of everything else and trust that everything will take care of itself. That's embodiment. That's being in your body. It's when you feel something bigger carrying you. That's what happens when we surrender to our design versus thinking about it all the time. And with the throat center, I think that this is the one that causes a whole lot of stickiness for people. With defined throats, there's a lot of people holding back. That's a big problem that I see with people with defined throats. A lot of power in the throat, but yet they still feel like they're not able to access it, or they're holding back. They're afraid they're too much. They're afraid they'll say the wrong thing. And then they hold back and they end up saying nothing. So some of the people who are stuck the most are the ones who are afraid to say the wrong thing. I want to start a podcast, but I'm afraid that I won't know what to say. I'm going to run out of things to say. So they hold back. And then the undefined throats, they just don't have confidence because it's there and it's not. I don't know. Will it be there when I need it to be? And what embodiment teaches us, really embodying your design, is getting very present and surrendering to exactly what you are. Exactly what you are. So as an undefined throat, you have a different job. You're not meant to have all the words all the time. You're meant to listen. You're meant to be present. You're meant to feel. You're meant to receive. So I understand that fear of, will I have something to say every time I go to hit record on my podcast? And the answer is yes, if you approach it the right way, you will. As long as you are using the energy that you do have, the consistency that you do have, when you're working with your design the way that you are actually designed, not with some mental construct of how you think it should come out, or how you think you should show up, or what you think it should feel like, be like, or come out like. That's what we teach. It's a different way of life. And honestly, we're being called to a different way of life now. That's why a lot of people are saying, I'm looking for my own authenticity. I want to stand out. I'm looking to live life as an individual and not like everybody else. Why do you think there's been this boom of personal development, people going inward? Because we're being called up to something bigger. And embodiment is a huge piece of that. Because if you keep looking at the outside world, and the outside world is changing so much, you're going to feel really unstable because the world is shifting. There's going to be a lot of crazy things that are happening. And if you don't have the power within you, if you're not unshakable, as I call it, I'm not telling you terrible things are going to happen. It's just not going to be as fun. You're not going to be as able to go through life and enjoy it because you're worried all the time, or you feel like you're being turned around, or you can feel like you're being attacked by circumstance. And for those of you who want to coach people, teach people, hold other people, your grounding is more important than anyone's. Because how can you possibly hold somebody if you can't hold yourself? I taught a workshop recently called Activate Your Magnetism, which is all about making the shift from knowing to being, from learning about things to embodying them, and talking to you about how magnetism works. Because magnetism, honestly, It's an overused term that I think it's been a bit bastardized because we've associated it with some of the things that it's not. Magnetism is really about pulling what's correct for us to us, not necessarily this is how you make $1 million, although you can, if that's right for you, if that's your path. We get to choose certain things, but magnetism is about being in the energy of what you want, but being in the energy of what's right for you and responding to the correct things. Following certain things so that you get what's right for you, that ultimately, when we look at it from a human design perspective, it's pulling you on the path to your purpose. You're magnetizing the purpose that you were born to fulfill. And that's really fun. If you want to join that workshop, it is still available for free for a moment, and it will be going to a paid workshop. So get in for free while you can. It'll be low cost once it is paid, but get in for free while you can. DM me the word workshop on Instagram. I'm at Nicole Lano Official. We will send it to you, or go to nicolelano.com/workshop and you can register right there. And then we'll send you an email right away that'll have the link to the replay so you can watch it. If you loved this episode, please share it on Instagram. Tell us you love it. Send me a DM. Let me know that you're here and listening to us. I appreciate you. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this episode. I hope you've enjoyed the series. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope this gave you a clearer understanding of your throat center and what your activation is like. And can you tell whether you're in a high expression of your defined or undefined throat? Can you start to feel the difference when different people are around you? All of these things are so interesting to understand. And when you start to feel it, then you start to be it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that this opened up some doors for you. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design, everybody. We'll see you next time. If you loved this episode and you're a fan of the show, please show us the love on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the show and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with other entrepreneurs on their human design journey, join our free Facebook community, Human Design for Entrepreneurs. Go to nicolelano.me/podcast links to join the group, book a human design reading with me, or access our free human design resources. We'll see you there.